Hello, today we're going to talk about the sexual assistant and sex work. My guest today is Lisette Mepschen. Lisette started as an escort at the age of 20, and soon after she founded her own escort agency. These days, Lisette mainly focuses on connecting with her clients. She has a lot of experience with clients with disabilities and other conditions that affect their sex life. Lisette is living and working in the Netherlands. She's also a public speaker and podcast maker on a mission to break down common stereotypes about sex work and help people achieve a satisfying sex life. Hi,
Wow.
Lisette.
Hi, Sonia.
You do a lot. Do you
Yeah.
want to add something more about yourself?
Phew. I like theater, cooking dinner. I've got a very cute dog called Lola.
Oh,
No, it's enough.
that's the most important part about
Right.
the dog. Okay, great. I'm really, really happy that we can talk. Thank you for your time. I have quite few questions, so we can move to the first one. So at first, I wanted to ask you to tell us more about your work. What do you do? Who you are?
As work. Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me, because I think it's awesome that you take the time to get to know more about what my job is. Right. About my job. I don't really know where to start. But you actually contacted me about sexual assistance. And for me personally, I don't see a lot of difference between doing sex work or doing sexual assistance. But that's because of my the way my career went, because I started as an escort and then I started to also date people with disabilities. And then they became a large part of my clientele, but not the only ones. And I think that's a different way than when you start at a specialized organization for like sex care. But I don't think there's really a lot of difference in what I do, because if someone has a disability or not, I'm still there to give the person the best time they can have on that day with me.
What does the sexual assistant or sex worker working with people with disability, what do you do at how can you support people?
So I can talk about myself, and for instance, what I do is dependent on what the person wants, but I'm a full service sex worker, so that means I go all the way. So if somebody wants to have intercourse or a French kiss or something, I do that when I feel comfortable with it. But it really depends on the person who is doing the assistance. So for what I hear, sometimes the assistant won't kiss, or they just want to cuddle, or just want to do the hand workings. So it really depends on who is the provider in this case.
Okay.
But what I do personally in my appointments is looking for the places where, because we all have a lot of shame about sexuality and about sexual desires, but what I've noticed for people with a disability, there's a layer on top of it about thinking that it's not for them, thinking they are not a sexual person, they only could be cuddling or have vanilla sex. But there's a lot of things. They also, like all of us, we have a whole range of sexual desires, and that's the same case for them. And what I try to do is give them to feel them, let them feel empowered, and show them there's a lot of exploring space and a safe space to play in with me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's like caused by society, right? That people feel like they're not a sexual person.
Yeah, because they don't see
the
examples.
Yeah. It's only like perfect people.
Yeah.
So
can I add maybe one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think there's going to be a lot of people who work in care, right? Watching this lecture or this interview. And what I've noticed also is that in the system of care, there's also this perception of, oh, well, maybe sex is too difficult for you, or let's not talk about it. And I understand this because it is sometimes a difficult thing to talk about, and it's private, and we don't know how to handle it. And maybe also the people working in care are a bit ashamed or shy, or but really avoiding the subject just gives the other people more evidence that sex is not for them, and they're not allowed to enjoy those kind of things. So yeah, I want to give that to the people listening.
So it's important to talk, like, even though sometimes you don't know how to use like perfect words, right? Just how you feel it, talk. And
creating a safe space without shame is way more important than using the right kind of words.
I wanted to ask you, since when the service like sexual assistance for people with disabilities and just sexual assistance is available in the Netherlands?
Yeah, so I looked this up for you because if you look at the history of sex work, it's a very undocumented history about what's what. So what I could find is the first organization who specifically gave this assistance is called SAR, is SER, and it started in 1982. But before that, like there was prostitution, and we don't know if people with disabilities weren't using those kind of services. Business, and also we've got a famous sex worker here in the Netherlands. She's called Metje, and she started doing care work as a nurse, I think, and she's now like, I think she's in the 70s years old. But when she did the work, it was a bit of normal to aid people with a disability or with an illness, just when you work as a nurse. And now it's illegal and you get fined, and there's all these kinds of rules, which there's our pros and cons to it. But that's why it's needed to have another different organization and a different specialization for this.
To handle this,
Yeah.
So, but it's legal profession, right? It's, Okay, you're paying taxes. You're like everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a difference between when you have an organization for the sex care, so sexual assistance. There's different rules. Like for me, because I'm a sex worker, not a sex assistant, there's I need to have a permit and everything to do it. But yeah, it's totally legal, and I pay taxes. So.
Yeah, that's great. And since when it's legal?
Well, I know since the year 2000, there's a different regulation about it. So before that, brothels were illegal, and they lifted the ban in 2000 and made prostitution legal, but it's under the system of permits. So I think I would say from year 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are far behind you.
Yeah.
Was it hard for you to start working with people with disabilities, or was it natural because you said you were dating people, right, with disabilities?
Yeah. So I started as a regular escort, whatever that means. And then the agency where I was working asked me if I was open for someone with a disability, because they had a client who called. And I was a bit scared because I didn't know what to expect. And I wasn't really afraid of him, but I was afraid that I wouldn't be good enough or could help him enough or would be fun enough. I don't know. Just not have a good idea about what he expected of me. And I know he was so kind and funny and sweet, and I had the best date with him. So after that, it was just really like, why not? And then I made a special announcement on my website because to show that I'm also available for people with a disability. And then it just became more and more.
Why we should use sex work instead of prostitution? Is there like...
Yeah, there's a lot of stigma around the word prostitution. Like the word prostitute or whore, it's made a cuss word. So sex work is like an international chosen term which doesn't have all the stigmas yet, and the community uses to change the general idea of the work.
Is there people from other countries coming to you, to the Netherlands, to use your assistance?
Not that much, not anymore. I did had some international clients a few years ago, but nowadays, like, my Instagram is in Dutch and my website is in Dutch, so I don't really target those people. And I do have more clients, more people that want to make an appointment than I can handle on my own. So I don't have the interest to make an English website or, but I do have the interest of making like trainings for sex workers to learn to handle people with a disability or how they can deal with certain situations. So I could divide the load of people that needs the service.
Is it like a lot of people with disabilities using the sexual assistants or sex workers?
Yeah, I don't have the data of that, and I think it's hard to get those numbers because people are not always honest about it. So I wouldn't know. I know there's 5 organizations in the Netherlands who give the official sex care, sexual assistance service. And then, there's a lot of sex workers who also do it. But couldn't tell.
So it's quite popular. More if you have like 5 organizations, I think it says, pretty well that it's...
Yeah, and they're also trying to get new laws in about financing supporting financial support for the people who need the service.
So you have a sex care, you have organizations, but people are still kind of shy to talk about that they are using sex worker. It's like, yeah,
I think so. Also, I think for once people are shy to let other people know they are sexual active, and then there's a lot of stigma around paying for your sexual needs, because like there's stigma on sex workers and sexual assistants, but there's also stigma on clients, like they are the dirty people or the sad people who couldn't get laid by their own. And so I think there's a lot of fear of being judged, and also some people are just private and don't want to share it to the whole world. Yeah,
that's true. But you have a goal to change it, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
People don't feel it.
Right. And I think what I see around me is that people with disability are more prone to let other people know that they use the service because it's more accepted. Because I think of this weird idea because you have a disability, so it's normal that nobody else would want to have sex with you. So good for you that you do this. But I see there's maybe a first step to the other persons also talking about it, because I see that they are more prone to talk about and share the experience.
Is there any disabilities you don't work with, and why, if there are any?
Yeah. I do not have a list of certain disabilities. I had one client who had a kind of skin disease, and I couldn't see past that because his skin was like the old skin coming off, but it was a lot and it was everywhere, and I couldn't see past the skin everywhere, and I couldn't relax myself. So in that sense, I couldn't also give him a good experience. So that's one. And I also think maybe a severe mental disability where somebody isn't able to communicate. But to be honest, I don't have much experience in that. So and also like with autism, for example, I can have a great escort relationship with someone with autism, but sometimes I meet someone with autism and then it just doesn't clicks, or it's just so it's really just dependent on the person also.
And it's also like it's important for you how you feel, right? Like you're not doing something if you're like don't feel comfortable, right?
Right. Yeah, like there's a degree in because it's my job. It's my job to give somebody this experience, and so there's a degree in like something I don't want to do and something I really dislike, and when I really don't have a connection with somebody, like we couldn't keep up the conversation and I just don't feel anything. Yeah, that's important for me. So I won't do it, because also the experience for them won't be as good as with someone who
you click like suddenly, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about people with disabilities that reach out to you. Do they reach out, or sometimes their families can reach out to you, or it's usually
it depends. So I had parents of a disabled young man who contacted me, and they arranged everything and then opened the door for me and then led me to this room. I also had people from the nursing home, I think you call it. So there's this building where different people with different disabilities live, and they have assistants there, and they reached out to me. But also a lot of people just do it by themselves, because it's not that hard to send an email for most of them.
So someone reached out to you as a couple sometimes to help them, have a good sex life, or?
Well, I did have threesomes, but I also had threesome with someone with disability. Yeah, but that's more for having a fun adventure together. I also had a threesome with a couple of where the woman had terminal breast cancer, so she was about to die, and still she wanted to experience this. But that's the way you explain it. I think that sounds great if a couple would reach out to
learn positions.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But no, I don't really have that. No,
okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.